The 775th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Earn up to $750 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Just go to edgeboost.bet and use promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Rhythm is giving away a $250 future and throwing a March Madness party. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for all the details.
Heidi ho, degenerinos. Welcome to episode 775 of the MMA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to Egg Guts, one of our friends, good name, one of our friends in the Discord who is either Canadian or at the very least is supporting Canada. So this goes out to you, Egg Guts. Welcome to the show. I am Jeff Without Hats Fox, because we got good ratings one time I didn't wear a hat, so we'll see. We'll see. Not ratings. It's not really ratings nowadays. I'm old. I call it ratings, but we'll see if we get mucho downloads. People want to see a balding, bearded old guy. That's basically what all you people out there are, right? Balding, bearded old guys. Anyhow, welcome to the show. UFC 313. These pay-per-views, I can't keep up. These coming fast and often, it seems. Same thing, fast and often in the UFC. UFC 313 is going down this coming Saturday, March the 8th in the T-Mobile Arena. Not the most star-studded card, but a pretty good fight card when I was doing, at least for us nerds, a pretty good fight card with some interesting lines that actually, I like some of the lines here for a change. Maybe I'll even get in on some underdogs. Who's to say? One guy who will, definitely, I guarantee he's in on a few dogs this episode, is the one and only Danny Gumby Breland. Hello.
Yeah, I think I'm in on a couple. I will say,
so?
Like, you're right, maybe not most star-studded at the top, but I feel like almost the bottom is, it like justifies where it is on the top. And also, it's a Pereira card.
Yes.
He's going to start to run into being one of those guys who, when he headlines a card, they go a little softer. Because, like, people want to see Alex Pereira, and he fights often. And so, like, they don't have to run out a power card out underneath them. And they did give us, originally it was supposed to be Gaethje Hooker in the co-main.
Which would have been fire. Would have been fire.
Is Gaethje Fiziev 2 not a good fight too?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
I mean, it's a rematch, which kind of sucks, but like, I don't know. Like, that's a good fight too. Anytime you see a Justin Gaethje fight, like there's something to that. So, I think they did all right at the tippity top. The rest of the main card, maybe not typical main card strength, but then, like these prelims, the things we're about to talk about today, I mean, there are some damn good fights on this one. Yeah.
Good matchmaking, because we have, for not all the fights, for a lot of the fights, we have some pretty close lines, which usually indicates, at the very least, it's a good matchmaking on paper. So we're starting off with some good lines. There's a minus 700 on this card. So, it's not all super close lines, but, pretty good matchmaking for the UFC brass. So let's just dive into it, because we have 7 fights, I believe, today to cover. So we should get moving, I guess, after I remind you to gear up for March. It's already happening. Hopefully you're geared up. But if you aren't already, make sure you check out Merch Madness, MERCH Madness, at our store, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Promo code Madness gives you 20% off in the SGPN store. Get in now before the promo code is done. Obviously, you're going to want to get all the awesome MMA Gambling Podcast gear. They have really good SGPN Degens hats now that I'm going to have to get at some point. Lots of good stuff. Actually, I'm Jeff without hats now, so who's to say? Anyhow, check out the store, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Gumby's rocking the Atlanta Braves hat. He's getting prepared for the long.
I decided to go back to back with it. Yeah, we did all the prelim episodes with it, and I'm getting ready for Drake Baldwin season. Do you know Drake Baldwin?
No, I don't. Should I know him? Should I add him to my fantasy team?
You will soon.
Okay, good. What's his face? Did not get protected in my league. Who's that guy on your team that's good? The star that got injured.
Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yes, he didn't get protected. Okay. So
everybody got hurt last year. So I don't know who you're talking about.
he is not protected. So someone didn't want to use one of the
didn't want to use a keeper on that one.
Yeah,
that's wild, man.
Yeah, I'll have to. I don't know if he'll last. I think I'm picking 9th, so I don't think he'll last.
He will not last to that. I promise you, he will not.
Okay. That's okay. He gets broken too often anyhow. So All right, UFC time, UFC 313. As I told you, if you want to go to it, it is in the T-Mobile Arena, Paradise, Nevada, this Saturday night. 6:30 start time. ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, UFC Fight Passes. What is hosting the early prelims, which is what we're starting on naturally here. Middleweight bout to begin with. I'll give you his full name: Djorden Ribeiro dos Santos versus Osman Diaz. So, well, actually, I'll give you both their full names because they both don't really go by either of those names. Osman Diaz becomes Ozzy Diaz, and we're going to tell you about him first. 9-3, 7 knockouts, 2 submissions. So he's finished everyone, and he's been finished via knockout in all 3 of his losses. So he owes his rounds, damn it. 0-1 in the UFC, 2-2 over his past 4 fights. Loss, win, loss is the pattern. He got TKO'd in his last fight. He went 0-1 in the Contender Series because he famously lost to who, Gumby?
Joe Pyfer.
Yeah, that's actually they actually gave Pyfer that's kind of a difficult fight. Usually guys like Pyfer and they try to set up with easy fights. That's not an easy fight, Ozzy Diaz. I guess he wasn't Joe Pyfer at that point, right? He wasn't beat Joe Pyfer.
And he had already lost on Contender Series. People forget that Joe Pyfer was 1-1 on Contender Series because he got slammed and dislocated his elbow gnarly.
It's I don't know how you could dislocate your elbow and it not be gnarly, really.
That was not more gnarly than usual.
Yep. He was the LFA champ and a regional champ. 2-0 in Bellator. Used to fight at 205. 2015 pro MMA debut. 4-4 reach over Santos. He has been outstruck over what do we have stats for? 2 fights. He's got outstruck by 2.53 strikes in those fights. He's at plus 165. Santos. He goes by Santos, the other gentleman, Djorden Ribeiro dos Santos. His nickname is Shakur. He is 10-1, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions, never been finished in any fight. This is his debut in the UFC. He got here by winning on the Contender Series. He's 1-0 in Contender Series. He's won 5 straight. He's not lost since January of 2019. I was going to say June. That's why I don't pronounce January like that normally. Regional champ. He has fought at every weight class, basically. Welterweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight. 7 years younger than Diaz, based off his 1 fight, better striking stats, twice more active landing strikes, better grappling stats as well off that small sample. He has outstruck his opponent, or his one opponent, I guess, in the Contender Series by 2.94 strikes per minute, minus 186. All right, Gumby, lead us off.
All right, I'm going to come out of the gate with an underdog.
Me too.
I'm going to take Ozzy Diaz. Yeah, I like that we're on the same page in this one. First of all, just not really overwhelmed by Jordan Santos on Contender Series. He fought Will Curry, who's like not a bad opponent, but was like probably going to try to like grind him out a little bit more. And it was not a terribly inspirational, stand-up performance from Santos. And also, like, as you mentioned, when Diaz has been beat, it's been by, big thunderous knockouts, like Joe Pyfer hitting him with one of the most brutal counters you've seen. And do you know who he debuted in the UFC against? Do you remember?
I just
it was a short notice fight with Zhang Ming Yang.
Yes, right.
Which, like, come on, dude. Like that's what we're lining this guy up with. And like, not for anything. Like, he lost that fight to Joe Pyfer. And by the way, go back and watch that. If you don't remember that fight really well, part of what Dana White liked about Joe Pyfer in that fight is he was not winning the fight. Like he had some ground control time in round 1 and maybe took that one on the scorecards. But in round 2 was getting backed up by Ozzy Diaz and kind of picked apart at times. And then he landed the counter that knocked him out. So like Diaz was kind of rolling there. Then he takes a huge amount of time off and he comes back and he beats Chuck Campbell, who is a guy who fought for the Cage Warriors title against Modestas Bukauskas. He beat Bevan Lewis, who is in the UFC. He knocked both of those guys out. And then, had a short notice fight against Zhang Ming Yang. And then on top of that, the other thing I like about him in this fight, other than that he's got good knockout power, he seems to be a touch quicker than Santos, is he's coming back to his natural weight class. He looked so good in that fight with Joe Pyfer. Like I said, a little bit of trouble with the grappling shouldn't be a problem here with Santos. But like his hands looked really sharp in that fight until he got clipped. And like, he's clearly got knockout power. And now we're going to see him in a weight class that's like a little bit harder to bully him. And it's a little bit harder to like back him down and be hitting harder than him. Like, I love seeing him back at middleweight. I think this is a great move for him. I trust the power. I think his hands are a little sharper. I think obviously the 2 knockout losses scared people away. But I mean, look at the knockout history for Santos. What is it? 3 in his whole career?
Looking at right now.
Yeah. One of them was by retirement. One of them was by ground and pound. So he has like one standing knockout in his whole career. I don't think
it
this
wasn't
is where
Samurai Fights though. It was the Samurai Fights one.
Not Samurai Fight House.
Samurai Fights, not Samurai Fight House. That's right. Never mind then. Yeah, that
very different. Not prestigious.
Very different.
Not prestigious. And so like he doesn't have big knockout power on the feet, and that's pretty much the only thing that's beaten Ozzy Diaz. So give me a chance to have Ozzy Diaz dominate with the hands here.
I want you to say everything, so take all my points. So I have nothing else to say. I was just going to read over Santos' knockout resume, which Gumby just did. Yeah, he does not.
Did that off dome, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. I had to look it up, obviously. As Dan said, he doesn't really have the resume of the type of fighter that has given Diaz trouble in the past. So I like Ozzy Diaz's experience. Obviously, I like the style matchup. I like that he's way bigger. Like 4 inches is pretty huge, way bigger than Santos. And he's got them thunder in his hands as well. So I think he's a very worthy dog. I was very happy to see him as a dog. Were you surprised by that at all?
I mean, I'll tell you the honest truth. When I saw the line, I was like, wait a second. And then it forced me to go back and watch Djorden Santos's fight on the Contender Series, because I was like, I thought I remember not liking him after that fight was over. And then rewatched the fight, and I was like, oh yeah, that was right. I didn't like him. This line's wonderful. But it took me a second to second guess myself.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you are not in him, because I lean on Gumby for most tough, especially, but Contender Series as well, to a lesser degree. Topology, 86% are in on Santos, so we're missing something, Gumby.
Brazilian guy.
What we're missing.
Brazilian guy off of Contender Series.
We'll find out what we're missing perhaps on Saturday. Hopefully not. Let's squeeze one more in before I get you some ad reads. Featherweights. Chris Gutierrez versus John Castañeda. Oh, John Castañeda, we could talk about again. Just lost his fight. Didn't lose his fight. He didn't get to fight. And now he's back again. Gutierrez first. El Guapo, the Handsome is the nickname. I think I stole that at one point. I can't really pull that off, I don't think. He's 21.
He stole it from Boss Rutten anyway. That's
right. Rutten. Yeah. Well, you can't argue with Boss Rutten being handsome, though.
Boss Rutten also gave him his blessings. Chris Gutierrez told me on the show one time that Boss Rutten blessed him, letting him use the nickname moving forward.
I would want his blessing before I take something from Boss Rutten, for sure. Nice guy, but he's not one to be messed with, for sure. All right, El Guapo is 21-6-2, 9 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been submitted 1 time. That is durability. That's this will be fight 30, and he's been stopped once. 9-3-1 in the UFC. Lost win over his last 4. 6-2 over his last 8, which sounds a lot better. Used to fight at 135 and 151. Good weight class. 1-on-1 in World Series of Fighting. Multiple regional championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get our merch. Get our gear at sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. Madness is your code. 20% off. 1-0 in Bellator. 2013 Pro MMA debut. 3 inches of height over Castañeda. Better striking stats than Castañeda. Has outstruck his opponents by 2.08 strikes per minute, so he really puts it on people. Plus 100, so even money for him. Sexy Mexi Castañeda, 21-7, 8 knockouts, 6 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. 4-3 in the UFC. He's stepping in here on short notice. He was supposed to fight. That was just last week, right?
Yeah, ish. Yeah, it's short notice. He's been in training camp the whole time, and
he's been training.
Started cutting weight, and his opponent asked for a catch weight, and then also never waited.
He's won 2 of his last 3, 4 of his last 6. Did lose his last fight. He used to fight at 135 and 155. Has missed weight twice at 135 before. 1-0 Contender Series, 2012 Pro MMA debut. 4 inches of reach over Gutierrez. Better grappling stats than Gutierrez. Has been outstruck by 0.55 strikes per minute in the UFC, minus 115. I'm taking the Handsome in this one. Back-to-back dogs out of the gate for Jeff Without Hats. I don't like the Castañeda. Like you mentioned, he already was cutting weight, and he's going to have to cut weight again a week later. A guy who's had issues getting down to this weight. Oh, wait a minute. This one's at featherweight, right? Okay. It won't be as bad then. Never mind. That's I see by Gumby's face. I think I know who he's picking. This one is up in featherweight still. I like Gutierrez's striking much better than Castañeda. I will take a spin on the plus money here. And you're taking Sexy Mexi.
I'm going to take the. I'm going to take the Sexy Mexi. First of all, I don't really see this as a short notice fight. Both of these guys were supposed to fight over the last couple of weeks. Both had opponents change. Both wind up fighting each other here, so I don't really consider that. And then I don't think he has to cut weight. I actually reached out to his manager. His manager confirmed with me that it was not Castañeda's side who asked for the 140 catch weight last week because it was supposed to be 135. We had sort of noted the Sexy Mexi's weight cut issues in the past, and it was not him who reached out to try to make it 140. It was Douglas Silva de Andrade, and then obviously he dropped out of the fight himself too. So we get the Sexy Mexi in this fight, and I think the weight change really benefits him here. He's a much bigger guy. He comes from a wrestling background. He is a kind of a bruiser, and he's missed weight a couple of times because he's just so big for this weight class. He's such a stocky guy. And then you're going to have Gutierrez on the other side, who's, was preparing for a 35-pound fight here. And yeah, that means he probably won't have to cut, but like, he's also not filling out that frame quite the same way as Castañeda is. So I like that, first of all. And also, we're talking about back-to-back fights now that Gutierrez has allowed at least 2 takedowns. And one of them, he allowed like 4 or 5 minutes of control time. The other one, he allowed 11 minutes of control time. He's been controlled pretty heavily and repeatedly taken down in his last couple of fights. Now you're going to run him up a weight class against a guy who's, probably a better wrestler than a lot of the guys he was fighting. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's not a better wrestler than Song Yadong, but he's more wrestling focused than Song Yadong. Also, when I did my interview with him, it seemed like he was in a good mental space, hired a mental coach for the first time leading into this fight. So like all of those things about Castañeda here, it is certainly a weird matchup to like sprout out of nowhere and kind of a tricky one because it is like very striker versus grapple. But I do like, I like the size here on Castañeda.
His headspace was good, and then he talked to Gumby. He did not know about the jinx, and what happened? His fight fell through, and now watch what's going to happen. You watch what's going to happen this week. All right, yeah, I always take, not always. I shouldn't say absolutes, but I normally take a striker. Gumby often takes a grappler, so no surprise, I guess, with our picks there. All right, let's move on. After I let you know about Edge Boost, SGPN, that would be us, has partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. An Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your card denied at the sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Plus, you can earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards for using your Edge Boost card. And your money is safe as the card is FDIC insured. The best part is no credit checks, and it's completely free. Set up today and use the promo code SGPN so you get better cashback, rewards, and instant tier 2 status. And we're going to use it to make plays on Al Horford. Should Kyle Filipowski be added? I think he should, because he did really good that night. You said he was going to do good, right?
Yeah, and he had another 13 boards last night.
Yeah, they have no player, so it's, it falls on Filipowski's shoulders at this point. So go to edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN, edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And we're brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet every sport, plus props for every game. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations, easy deposits, and lightning fast payouts using crypto. Obviously, MMA lines is what you want to check out there. But Al Horford, but we're all in Al Horford, Kyle Filipowski as well. Head to mybookie.ag, promo code MMA SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code MMA SGPN. That way we get credited and you get some bonus stuff. So boom, a win-win, I believe we call that in the biz. All right, the main event of the early prelims, Mairon Santos from Brazil, Francis Marshall from the United States of America. 3 5-minute rounds, 145. I'll tell you about the American first, Marshall. Fire Marshall, 8-2, 1 knockout, 4 submissions. He's been knocked out once. 2-2 in the UFC, 1-2 over his last 3. He did win his last fight, though. Probably saved his job, you would think, with that win there. Although Andrea Lee has lost 6 straight, and I haven't seen her get cut yet, so who's to say? He went 1-0 in Contender Series. Used to fight at 155, 2 inches of height over Santos. Better grappling stats than Santos. He's been outstruck in the UFC by 0.47 strikes per minute, and the Contender Series fight included there, plus 255. The legend, Mairon Santos, 14-1 with 8 knockouts. He's been knocked out once, 1-0 in the UFC. He's won 2 straight, including his last fight via TKO. That was for the TUF Championship. He went 2-0 in the Ultimate Fighter and then won the championship in his last fight. He's not lost a fight since February 2022. He has fought at flyweight, bantamweight, and lightweight. 1-1 as a pro grappler. A year younger than Marshall. Better striking stats, more active landing strikes. Very small sample size for him, though. 1 fight. I don't think they don't count TUF stats, so it would just be the 1 fight. He outstruck his opponent in the TUF finale by 2.92 strikes per minute, minus 300. So a very big line for his first real UFC fight.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Santos here. I liked him on the Ultimate Fighter. I think actually I liked him before that when he was like an LFA prospect. And when they called him to be in the Ultimate Fighter, I was like, is he like a little bit too young and a little bit too raw to like, maybe make 3 fights in the house against some decent veterans work. I think at the end of the day, he showed that he's really learned how to round out his game. Like he figured out the biggest piece is the takedown defense. Like he fought guys like Con Offley. He fought, an Olympic qualified wrestler in the semifinals. Like he's fought a lot of good wrestlers while he was in there, and like showed that he can basically make them stand and trade with him. And that's like kind of the thing I like in this fight is that like Francis Marshall is a guy who largely made it up through the regional ranks by hitting takedowns repeatedly, top game. Control. Then when he made it to the Contender Series, he sort of showed off a little bit. His boxing's kind of come around. He works with Kurt Pellegrino. You remember Kurt Pellegrino?
Of course.
Batman.
I'm old, remember?
Yeah. He's been working with Kurt Pellegrino. So like, his hands have sort of come along quite well. He showed off. He beat the controller in the Contender Series fight, who wound up making it to the UFC anyway. And so like his hands have come around, but I actually think that does him a disservice here. Like I think if he falls in love with his hands too much and doesn't get right to the takedown game and starting to try to like scare Mairon Santos into playing a little bit too much defense, I think he's gonna find a comfortable Mairon Santos in there. I think Santos takes him out. So give me Mairon Santos. This is a good first opponent for him.
Yeah, Santos is scary on the feet. Marshall, not so much. Marshall really isn't that great on the feet. So I think it's very well. You said you think he's going to take him out, but I think that could be the case as well. Perhaps the knockout prop. Perhaps we'll talk about that tomorrow. Maybe it's in something. Who's to say, right?
You're not taking your hand. Might show up.
Well, I won't make it. I won't make the play if you're going to make the play. Anyhow, we shall see tomorrow. Tomorrow is when we do our prop plays, but we sprinkle hints when we put down our breadcrumbs leading up to it normally. All right, we're on to the main prelims, 8 p.m. start. ESPN News, ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, everything with the plus behind it. Just check that. Welterweight fight. Alex Morono, yep, he's still fighting, versus Carlos Leal. 3 5-minute rounds to 170. I tell you about the Great White. The Great White versus the Lion. This is one of those classic, who will win in a fight, a shark or a lion? The Great White, Alex Morono, is 24-11 with 1 no contest. 6 knockouts, 7 submissions. He's been knocked out 3 times. 13-8 with 1 no contest in the UFC. He's lost 2 straight. Before that, he's gone 1-3 and 2-4. So not the greatest run. Regional champion, used to fight at 185, 2010 pro MMA debut. He has outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 0.4 strike per minute, plus 575. This is the big one on the prelims. The Lion is 21-6, 10 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been submitted once. 0-1 in the UFC. He's won 2 of 3 and 4 of 7. Did lose his last fight. 5-2 in PFL. 1-0 in Bellator. He's missed weight a couple times at 170. Our regional champ. Used to fight at 155. 2012 pro MMA debut. 2 inches height. 4 years younger. More active landing strikes. Better grappling stats. He has been outstruck in the UFC by 0.14 strikes per minute. Minus 700. Give me the young Lion. This fight takes place on land, so I'm not going to take a shark over a lion in a land fight. I'm not taking Alex Morono at plus 575 either at this point in his career. So Leal is my pick. Hopefully it's going to be
Leal looks dangerous too. And you mentioned his loss in his debut. Man, was it not a loss. Man, did he beat the hell out of Rinat Fakhretdinov. And like we would be talking about him in a lot different of a tone if those judges over, was it Abu Dhabi, got that one really wrong?
Sounds right, yeah.
I remember it was like an early morning card. I remember watching it at like 10 a.m. And I also remember having Rinat Fakhretdinov as my lock that week and being quite satisfied with the decision, but also recognizing, the MMA gods giveth and they take it away. Yeah. Like his striking looks really good. If you look at any of his losses, not counting the Rinat fight, that probably wasn't a loss. It's like he had to deal with people who are like way bigger and way more physical than him. Like he lost twice in PFL to Sadou Boussaï. Who, now is fought at like middleweight and light heavyweight and it's like gone way up in weight. But like Leal is, he's ferocious on the feet. He throws a really nice body kick. He backs people up. And he was doing all of that and stuffing takedowns from Rinat Fakhretdinov. It's hard for me to like anything about Alex Morono there. So yeah, I'll take Carlos Leal as well.
Okay, Leal the Lion. Obviously Lion over a shark. Unless this was in water, and then obviously all bets would be off for that. All right, we're going to a middleweight fight. A fun one, hopefully. Brunno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. Brazil versus Armenian. So our boy, it's going to be in the
shout out Ryan H.
He hasn't posted anything yet, but I'm sure it's incoming.
He's not Ryan H anymore, right? He's the violent Armenian.
He's a violent Armenian. Yes, he has been for a while. Old school people remember him as Ryan H. I assume it's Heian. I assume his name starts with the H and ends with a YAN, probably, right? It's probably Ryan Heian or something. Ferreira is the Hulk. 12-2, 9 knockouts, 3 submissions. So he's finished everyone, and he's been finished in both his fights. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. He owes his rounds, damn it. 3-2 in the UFC, 2-2 over his last 4. Loss, win, loss is the pattern. Got submitted in his last fight. 1-0 Contender Series, a regional champion, a interreach in 2 years of youth over Petrosyan. He's got better grappling stats than Petrosyan. I have a feeling no one's going to grapple here, but who's to say? Has outstruck his opponents on the Contender Series and in the octagon by 0.64 strikes per minute, plus 130. Superman, Petrosyan, the Hulk versus Superman. Hey, this is another one of those ones where the nicknames match up. We have a shark versus a lion. We have Superman versus the Hulk. Superman is 9-4 with 6 knockouts. He's been knocked out twice, submitted once. 3-3 in the UFC. 0-2 over his last 2. 2-2 over his last 4. He's been finished in his past 2 losses. 1-0 in Contender Series. A regional champ. Used to fight at 205. A Muay Thai champ. 5 inches height over Ferreira. Better striking stats. More active landing strikes. And he has outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 2.59 strikes per minute. Minus 150. Are we going to link up here, Gumby? Let's see.
I almost went Brunno Ferreira, but I'm going to go Armen Petrosyan. I just don't, I was trying to, I think, convince myself of getting in on more dogs, and then I talked myself out of it.
Yeah.
And it's because Brunno Ferreira does have that game changer power. And I think mentally I'm still hung up on the fact that he knocked out RoboCop way back in the day, which is it's such an insane thing. Cause and then I went back and watched that and all it was RoboCop let his guard down for a half a second, and this guy's got nukes. This guy's got nukes for hands, right? And then the thing about Petrosyan is that's kind of what makes him great is he doesn't let his guard down. His 2 losses by stoppage, as you mentioned, it's the weirdest thing in the world from Shara Bullet, right? It's he got hit with a double spinning back fist, and then he he got kind of. Yeah, and then he got hit weirdly during a spinning attack. Somebody jumped on his back and rear naked choked him, if I'm remembering that correctly. So he's had a couple of kind of weird finish losses, but Brunno Ferreira has been finished by just by being I'm a brute and I'm gonna stomp you down, and then he gets hit with somebody who's more technical, and I think that's exactly what he gets hit with here. Is I think Petrosyan is just too he's got too much class on the feet here to get sucked into a slugfest with Ferreira, and unless you get sucked into just trading bomb for bomb, people don't typically lose to Ferreira unless that's the type of fight they're losing. So I like the cardio. I like being able to put together a more complete game. I'll take Petrosyan.
I am going with the wild man. I'll take the dog here. I'm going dog again, maybe. Yeah. It's going to be on the feet. Obviously, Petrosyan is a better striker, technical striker.
But sometimes that just doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. Exactly. There are cheat codes to this game. Athleticism, power, youth. All those are cheat codes. Not that Ferreira is much younger. 2 years doesn't really qualify, but he does have the power for sure. And like you said, Petrosyan got caught doing a spinning thing. I can see him instead of getting choked, him spinning into a knockout blow. So give me the Hulk. I'll go Hulk over Superman. The Kryptonite. Hulk's green, Kryptonite's green. It all makes sense. All right, before we move on, I see the time on the clock. I should tell you about some more of our lovely sponsors. Rhythm. Rhythm is throwing an epic March Madness party, and you're invited. All Rhythm users are invited to a first 4 watch party Wednesday, March 19th at the awesome Stadium Swim at Circa Las Vegas. Free drinks, plus you get to hang out with the guys from SGPN. And it gets better. Rhythm is also giving away a $250 March Madness future for one random lucky Rhythm user. Even if you can't make the party, you can still win the future bet. So come by and use Rhythm to help you fill out your bracket and make some bets while you're there. Rhythm's March Madness stats and success from 2024 are, with UConn winning, their percentage of winners was 39% higher than in ESPN brackets as a whole. Rhythm had 34% of brackets. ESPN had 24.7% of brackets. Rhythm predicted Duquesne, NC State, and Oakland upsets. 45% of Rhythm brackets had NC State reaching the Sweet 16. So free party, plus a chance to add a $250 feature bet. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for details. To sportsgamblingpodcast.com/PARTY. And Underdog Fantasy, NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever your sport, you can cash in big with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Underdog is offering a Luka Doncic discount for every Lakers game for the rest of the regular season. Also, for football diehards, Pick'em projections for select players, 40-yard dash times during this week's NFL Combine. Gumby, do you have a play for the people?
Sure, we'll kick it with the UFC. I'm going to take the higher than on John Castañeda's takedowns. As I mentioned earlier in the show, Chris Gutierrez has been taken down at least twice in each of his last 3 fights. You got to imagine the sexy Mexi gets it done that many times as well. So give me the higher than on John Castañeda's takedowns.
Are we going to make Underdog videos since this pay-per-view? Maybe we should. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's get them done this week.
Check out YouTube and our socials. We'll get you a full ballot, for a full entry from each of us for the UFC. So sign up with our code MMA SGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit. Offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. Good old Sig Pin. All right, we are moving on up the card as we tend to do here. We're off to flyweights next, which is always fun. Rei Tsuruya. Why am I having trouble with that? Tsuruya versus the Myanmarian Joshua Van. Is that what they're called from Myanmarian? They are now. Sure. Tsuruya, the Japanese fighter, is 10-0, 4 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's been 1-0 in the UFC. He's taking this fight on short notice. Who is Van supposed to fight originally? Do you remember?
I can't remember. Not off the top. Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe Tapology is not going to work. We'll tell you at some point. He went 3-0 on the road to UFC and won the championship. He also was a regional champ. An inch height, 3 inches reach over Van. He's outstruck his opponents on the road to and in the UFC octagon by 0.97 strikes per minute, plus 165. The fearless Joshua Van, 12-2, 6 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted once, 5-1 in the UFC. He's won 2 straight and 10 of 11. He's a regional champ. He's 3 times more active landing strikes than Tsuruya. He's outstruck his opponents by 3.06 strikes per minute, minus 192. Give me the fearless Joshua Van. He's got those cheat codes I was talking about in our last fight. Power in his hands, speed, explosion, athleticism. He's going to be a better striker here and fight an opponent on short notice, obviously. Short notice fighters don't tend to win very often. So give me the fearless Joshua Van.
I think you missed his biggest cheat code. I think his biggest cheat code is his pace. Pace and his cardio.
Right.
Those are the ones that stand out to me in just about every fight. He just wears down the person he's fighting. And then when you add in that he's fighting a guy who relies on his wrestling and is taking this fight on short notice, that is just, there's, 2 dings on his side right away. And for me, that's enough to be all over Joshua Van. I like Joshua Van here. I think, you might see him give up a takedown or 2 early on because, his takedown defense hasn't been flawless in his time in the UFC, but he gets up, he forces you to work, and then, man, does he make you pay for putting energy into takedowns. So, yeah, I see that as being Joshua Van's path to victory here.
All right. Either of us are fearless, are fearful of our picks. We are fearless. We're picking Joshua Van. I don't think that's a bold pick, though, at all. So we're not really even being.
It's a pretty good line.
He was supposed to fight originally. Yeah, he's supposed to fight Brunno Silva originally, the flyweight Brunno Silva. So, not
the better of the 2 Brunno Silva. The better of the 2
the other
Brunno
one. Sad. The other one kind of didn't really pan out, did he? All right, main event of the prelims: heavyweights. Curtis Blaydes, Rizvan, Kuniev. Only one sloppy. It's not, so you can't really call it a sloppy fatty's over, can you? I haven't seen that in the Discord this week, so I don't think it's considered that. Kuniev, I'm not telling you which one is the sloppy fatty. Kuniev is 13-2-1 with 1 no contest, 6 knockouts, 3 submissions, never been finished in a fight. He owes us to get finished. This is his debut. He went 2-0 on Contender Series. He got a no contest in PFL because he took a bunch of steroids, vitamin S. 11-0 with 1 no contest over his last 12. TKO win in his last fight. He's not officially lost a fight since August 2015. 2011 Pro MMA debut, a year younger than Blaydes. Better striking stats, more active landing strikes, better grappling stats. That's all based off of like his 2 Contender Series fights, where he outstruck his opponents by 4.57 strikes per minute. He's up plus 270. Razor Blaydes, 18-5 with 1 no contest, 13 knockouts. He's been knocked out 5 times. 13-5 with 1 no contest in the UFC. Loss over his last 3, 4-2 over his last 6. Got KO'd, in his last fight to the real heavyweight champ, Tom Aspinall. 2014 Pro MMA debut. He was a wrestling junior college champ, I believe. 4 inches of reach over Kuniev. He's outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 1.63 strikes per minute, minus 330. So big line for Razor Blaydes.
Yeah, I'm going Blaydes.
Me too.
This really feels like, does it feel like to you that Curtis Blaydes might have 1 fight left on his contract?
Yeah. Usually they give people hard fights. Like
No. Usually they give him an up-and-comer who's kind of lame, who if they lose to him, they'd be like, well, definitely show you the door or lowball you. Or they beat him and they're like, okay, well, here's the door. Congratulations on your win on Rizvan Kuniev.
It's true.
And like, good luck negotiating with that being your last win. You're coming off of a knockout and then you rebounded with a decision win over Rizvan Kuniev or something like, like that seems to be the way the UFC plays it, because otherwise, in what world would he be fighting this guy? Because I was not blown away by Kuniev on Contender Series. I think Curtis Blaydes is the second best wrestler in the heavyweight division right now, only behind Djorden Almeida in terms of just pure wrestling. You could say John Jones blends it together better than both of those two, but like, other than Djorden Almeida, he's the best like pure wrestler in this weight class. And Rizvan is like you said, he's not what he used to be now that he's off the juice. He looks a little bit flabbier. He's not as strong. And, his fight on Contender Series didn't blow me away. I think, Curtis Blaydes takes him down, beats the hell out of him, racks up 100 strikes on the mat or something like that. Like, this is all Curtis Blaydes to me.
Yeah, I was hoping I wasn't missing something from Kuniev. And good, I'm not. So if Gumby's not in on him, then neither am I. I reminded myself of who he was and like, yeah, interesting matchup. So Blaydes is the obvious pick here. And the line kind of gave it away as well, that I wasn't really missing anything here. So, all right, let's get you recapped and get you out of here, and then we'll get you back tomorrow for more fun. We both have Blaydes. We both have Van. I have Ferreira. He has Petrosyan. We both have Leal. Both have Santos. I have Gutierrez. He has Castañeda. We both have Diaz. And you are set. In the Discord, as I've mentioned a couple times before, the way to get in there is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Unless you're a bot, and unless you want us to hit you up to get sticky, then in that case, then don't bother. We are on the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Hit us up in the comments at MMA Gambling Podcast. On the X, we are SGPN MMA. No, MMA SGPN. Which one are SGPN MMA, right?
Yeah, you got it right the first time and the third time.
Yeah, even not the even one, the odd ones. It's because our code is the opposite of that. So SGPN MMA is the X handle. He is Gumby Verila, and I'm a Jeff Fox writer there. Same as on Instagram for me. Get in my Substack. Check it out. I have UFC Seattle official payouts from last 2 weeks ago. I got those from the commission yesterday, so they're up on moneymma.substack.com. Henry Cejudo does not make a lot of money, so check that out. Also, you can enter my free pick'em contest at moneymma.substack.com. Gumby, Top Turtle MMA podcast. We haven't previewed this week yet.
Yeah, I finally have the official rundown of the guests. We had talked to Dennis Frimpong, who's going to be fighting on Octagon 68 this weekend. And then I also talked to Constantino Natellis, who is on Cage Warriors 183.
All right, so check that out. Top Turtle, always a good listen. And of course, we're at sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Remember the code MADNESS, 20% off, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon and bonus content. And when you sign up, please sign up to Underdog Fantasy and mybookie.ag. The code is MMASGPN. And then it's a win-win for all of us. All right, back tomorrow. It'll be El Guapo, Jeff Fox, Sexy Maxi, Gumby Verila, and we'll talk to you then. See, both those are live.